Hey guys, it's Pastor Jim from Bay West Church, and I just wanted to hop on and do a little video really quick on something that a lot of people have asked me about, and I've seen a lot of publicity. You've probably seen it too, the Asbury Revival or Awakening. I like that term a lot better. The president there at Asbury Seminary, if you don't know, at Asbury Seminary on February the 8th, they started a chapel service, and it just never stopped. And here we are on the 22nd of February, and yesterday they actually had a service to conclude the service, but it's been 24/7 since February 8th. And some people call it revival. I like the president of seminary called it awakening. He said revival you kind of see in the hindsight after you see what's happening, so you just don't know. But anyway, God's moving, and a lot of people have different viewpoints about how to deal with it. A lot of people, is it real? Is it not? All this type of stuff. What do you think about it? All this type of thing. So see a lot on social media, a lot in conversation, in my circles, because I'm a pastor. And I found an article that I thought was really good. And it was by Carrie Newhoff. I saw this tweet. I shared this earlier. It's from Shane Pruitt. It's kind of great. It says, us, oh Lord, send us a revival. God, well, here you go. And we're like, oh, well, here's my list of concerns, critiques, and cautions about it. And I've seen everything from, nobody's preaching the word, they're just singing, or they're just young. A lot of stuff. And I just kind of want to caution us in how we deal with that. An article I read by Carrie Newhoff, who used to be a pastor in Canada. He did a really good job. He's here's 5 things about this type of a guy. And he's shared 5 things to think about, really for pastors. The name of the article is 5 Thoughts on the Asbury Revival for Pastors. But I think these work really well for everyone. I think they're really good. And so if you're wondering about how you deal with that, or is it real, is it not? Because we're seeing it crop up all over the place. My niece is at, in a university in Oklahoma, and it's, they're cropping up there. I'm seeing people at Baylor, DBU, Tennessee, Ohio. You're starting to see these awakenings cropping up, around. Of course, then you have Jesus Revolution movie that's starting this weekend. And, I know that's not all coinciding plan, but it is kind of funny, in a way. But I just want to share these 5 things that Carrie Newhoff wrote. He did a great job. I can't improve on them. I may expound on them, but not much. But the first thing is be more curious and open than you are critical. And the quote from his article is, we live in a highly cynical age, but if God is indeed moving, this is no time to be cynical. And that is absolute 100% true. Look, I don't know, but it's okay not to know. And we might say, well, I don't know, it just looks kind of chaotic, whatever. So temporary confusion and uncertainty, this is another quote from the article, may not be a sign that God is absent, but perhaps an indicator that God is present and moving. Because a lot of times we don't understand totally what God's trying to do. We can think he's going to do this and this will be the outcome, but we don't know. There are really millions of branches and millions of ways things could go, and we don't know what God's trying to accomplish in the life of one person, in 2 people. I don't know what God's trying to accomplish in your life through it or anything, but the truth is this, and Newhoff said this as well, it's much easier to criticize than it is to contribute. So let's don't do that. Let's hold off. Let's hold off on that. Second thing is, don't worry about taking a position. You don't have to have a final opinion on this right now. And I think it's especially true in my position. A lot of people, because as a pastor, sometimes people look at me to speak. I speak for the Lord kind of in a way in my little tiny area, even though my church is really small, but you don't have to have an opinion about everything. You can reserve judgment, and that's a quote from the article. And I think, and I love this, Tim Tennant, he tweeted this out, and it's really, really good. It says, look, it's always better to stand in awe of something than to just talk about something. And I think in what I've heard, often is that if you're talking about something more than you're praying about it, you really don't want answers, you don't want direction. Whether that's a problem in your life or wisdom about a situation, because you're obviously just talking to everybody else about it. That's great, but I want to talk to the Lord and hear from the Lord from it. Third thing is this, resist the temptation to imitate what's going on. And I think that's key, especially for leaders and pastors, but so often we look at what's working elsewhere and we tend to think, oh, let's just repeat that, and we'll kind of work that out for ourselves. Like we could gin up some movement of God. I can't do that. I can only pray and ask God for revival. God's going to do what God's going to do. And that's what I just want to be available and open to whatever he wants in my life. And I think where that comes down to us is where you see, I've seen at least on social media, is there's this real thing like, oh, well, let's come out and let's make all these neutral things bad, and what I mean by that. I said, all the people who don't like lights and don't like video and don't like technology, like, see, you don't need any of that. See, I told you, just don't do it. Here's what you need to do. I even saw one tweet that said, this Sunday was what everybody needs to do. Just stop. Just don't do a program. Don't do, don't make any video. Don't do anything. Don't have anything organized. Just seek Jesus. And I think seek Jesus is fine. But what we do is we take a lot of things that don't mean anything, right? Lights, sound, wood pulpit, stand, iPad, I don't care. Those things don't mean anything. They're neutral tools that God has. And we try to attach some spiritual significance to it and it's really about our preference. And we need to be careful about that. We don't need to try to repeat this. We need to seek God, absolutely. But we don't need to try to create some false dichotomy between seeking God and a particular manner in which when you seek Him, other than what's biblical. And that's the truth. And I think one quote from the article was, seeing God move is as much about positioning as it is about anything. You can position yourself for what God might want to do, but you can't force it. And you can't. And we need to stay in a position of humility. We need to stay in a position of obedience and try to be, what God wants us to be. I love this other quote. It said, when it comes to revival, you never know what might happen, but you can't make it happen. And that's fact. I mean, I can't make God do anything. I want to be a part of whatever God wants to do, even if my part is just while looking over there and seeing that. If God hadn't called you to jump in a car and drive to Asbury, that's okay. Just chill out. It doesn't mean that you don't love God if you're not there. All right. Fourth thing is this: don't feel generationally threatened. And I feel this so much because I'm getting to the old man yelling at the cloud on the lawn stage, like, I feel that Clint Eastwood meme where he's going like, I look at my face, I'm like, yeah, I look like that now. I've got gray beard and all that. And we have a tendency to look at, as you get older, your experience causes you to look at the inexperience of a younger generation. And we can be careful. We can tend to doubt their ability, because they're leaving from kids to adults, and we can think we know more or our way is better. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I know as a pastor, who as a leader, I've been challenged in my life, that if I'm going to raise up leaders behind me, I'm going to have to give them opportunity. I'm going to have to put resource behind them. I'm going to have to let them fail and not crush them with that. And I'm going to have to stand in and take some arrows from people when they fail and help them get back up. And let's keep going, because here's what I don't want to do. I've seen leaders fail at this. I've seen leaders hold on too long and just, they're threatened by the next people coming. I'm going to show you, I'm going to go out with my dying breath showing you I'm better than you. And they usually drive people away from any legacy they would have wanted. I want my legacy I've left, something that I want to see this generation. If this Asbury revival and revival is happening in that generation, rock on. Great. Go do it. Find Jesus. I mean, I want to leave this earth knowing that people are still seeking Jesus. And that's my hope. I'll never build a church big enough to overcome that. I'll never write a book or do anything like that. Anything. Fourth thing so that's the fourth thing. Another quote from that is, just because something amazing is happening and you're not part of it, it doesn't mean God's not in it. So let's all be careful about that. I heard somebody go, oh, there's no preaching in it. I'm like, they don't even know. The whole thing started with a message. I mean, these people try to find something wrong with it because they're not there. Chill out, hold up, pray about it, And the fifth thing is great. It says, so, from Carrie, he said, maybe watch and just give thanks. There you go. I mean, just watch it, give thanks. I mean, we all hearken back to, he mentioned Gamaliel in Acts 5, and there's no one quoted out of context, but the whole point there is that if this is of God, it will last. If it's not, it won't. And time will tell the story. So my job and your job is not to be the first one to know the truth. That's not our job. I'm supposed to honor God with every moment and everything that I have, and look for God to pour into me. And what do you want from me? And it's looking at this revival. Is that something that God is showing me something about my life? Is that something that we need to do about our lives? Is God showing me something? Is God doing something in our country? If He is, great, that's awesome. But that's where we need to be about, is obeying the Lord and honoring Him and letting Him dictate the results, because it's all about Him. Anyway, there's just some thoughts about the Asbury revival. I mean, I hope it crops up around the country. I mean, it already has on several college campuses across the nation, and hope that God does amazing work. And I'm going to leave whatever the results are to him, because that planning and that administration of something like that is far beyond Jim, as it should be. You guys have a great day.